What's up, YouTube? So welcome back. I did want to finally make a real estate video. Now, we're just gonna, I guess, kind of give my opinions. We're gonna talk about two real estate economies because I just want to voice my opinion. I know there's just not a shortage of real estate opinions out there. If you've been on Facebook, I really don't get on Twitter, so I don't know if it's there, but I can only imagine. That being said, I know what my Facebook looks like, and I know there's a lot of people giving their opinion about real estate. They're not even in real estate. They don't do it for a living. They don't, nothing. Now, my main income is still from trading, but still do real estate. Still something I'm passionate about. I do think it'll become an app, so I don't think real estate agents have, much longer. But on that note, man, do I keep hearing the housing market's going to crash, bubble. First of all, let's chill on the bubble talk. I'm going to talk about an actual bubble in this video. But man, it's like the price goes up just a little bit. Like, you guys have no idea what inflation actually is. And I don't want to talk bad or talk down. Let me just get my opinion. I understand if you're new to me, my delivery might be a little off. It's a little more direct than most. I don't have a high-pitched voice. I'm not the nerdy guy like all the other cool YouTubers. I don't have a shocked face or anything. But ease up on the bubble talk. Something goes up $3. Someone's like, bubble, it's gotta be a bubble. Have you seen the real estate bubble? Gonna crash. Gonna drop 50%. You know, the only thing they've ever known is what happened in 2008. There was a movie about it called The Big Short. And, next thing you know, everyone's a real estate professional. They're not. And I don't want to put anybody down. Everyone has their own opinion. But, do you put how much weight do you give an opinion on someone who maybe has a house? Or a lot of the things I'm seeing are people renting their house. Why they don't want to buy? I'm like, cool. That's exactly what I want to get real estate advice from. Someone who has no skin in the game, knows nothing about it, isn't actively doing anything. And I just spit all that out, because if you see this stuff on Facebook or any social media like that, either scroll right past it or just say, hey, what experience do you have in this market? Is this something I should entertain going forward, listening to you? Or are you just, just word vomiting some stuff out real quick because Facebook gave you a little space to type out your status and what your thoughts are? As far as the U.S. economy goes, the cool thing is we get to draw some comparisons as to what's going on between here in the United States and China. First of all, I don't think we're in a real estate bubble. Things have gone up in price. Yeah, I like they normally do. Yeah. So anyway, that's called inflation. Now, before anybody loses their minds, yes, housing has been just on this boom, this just rampant run that is not sustainable, right? The elevation of that ramp is what's not sustainable. The fact that home prices can grow, still very much so. On typical, it's like just shy of 4% a year is what it's supposed to be. If you bought a house in the past couple of years, 24%. It's something ridiculous. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that can't afford to buy homes. And we live in an entitled society that thinks everyone should be handed to them. If you guys, now, to the people that can't afford to buy a home, and it has something to do with your credit or anything like that, unfortunately, that's on you. Like, you're going to go to a bank and say, can I borrow a few $100,000? Of course, you look at your credit card, or your credit card statement. They look at your credit. Like, you can't afford a $100 payment. You've already missed that. You've been late. Like, that just shows you're not responsible. You're not a good borrower. So I'm not exactly against that like some people are. It's not as easy as 2008, but there's a reason we crashed in 2008. We were just giving money out. Like, it just didn't matter. Like, everyone had Powell's printer in their back office. Like, if they default, so what? We got kick the printer on for an extra shift or something, Anyway, if you're in that camp, you do have to take the responsibility. Buckle down, get things in gear. Focus on your credit. That, especially this society, is just obsessed with that. So just build that up. You need it. Again, back to a bubble. Yes, houses have gone up. Now they're beginning to price themselves out because this inflation is running rampant. We are going crazy with it. We're pricing ourselves right out of anybody's ability to even purchase anything. So now that we're at that point, that's where we're starting to see the peak now. Interest rates have risen already a lot, and we have still so much demand that were absorbing just anything. We're finally, as agents, we see it on the back end. It went from like 200 offers down to 20, down to, and they're all like 50 grand. Like just where I live, it's 50 grand over asking. But like, you know, if you're offering, it's a $350,000 house. Someone's like, I'll give you 400, and sight unseen. Let's just go right now. Can I do it? And you're still the low ball offer? Like, that's nuts. So that's where we've been, and we just started to kind of back things off. So on the back end, agents have seen it a little bit faster than, well, most everyone else. We're just now starting to see, like, the good old days of, like, I'll buy it, but you're going to pay closing. Like, it was kind of nice to see that. But real estate, so it's on that ramp up. Now, when real estate takes a hit, it has to take away from that ramp up. That ramp up is almost assumed. It's just what it's always done. So, you know, a 20% hit in the real estate market. If the market, just keep the numbers simple. Let's say a 20% hit in the real estate market. But every year it goes up 15%. Your house will actually probably only drop like 5%. And then the next year it's just going to start ramping back up again. Like, it has to not accelerate. I'm not using the right word. That's not increase in value first. Takes away from that and then goes down. It's not really like on like a stock's like on this flat plane. It's going up or it's going down. Like, that doesn't be two options. This is like automatically up. We got to take away off that first and then off the initial value. And another thing, I saw an article the other day, like foreclosures are up 700%. I got a shout out to Graham Stephan. He does a lot of research on his. And even he said, like, he couldn't find any, like, no link to that. There was no, like, source of that. And I gotta say, I don't even need a link to understand that one. Like, you know, when the Rona happened and we crashed, you had to call Biden yourself and say, I'm not paying this bill. And even then, Biden's like, well, why don't you sleep on it for a year? We'll get back with you. Don't you worry, we're gonna be fine. Your credit's gonna be fine. You just don't pay your mortgage, and we'll call it square, right? Let's put a pin in it, and we'll get back. Like, you just couldn't foreclose. So now we just wiped that slate clean. There's 0 foreclosures on the market, and now, you know, there's like what, 6 or 7 of them hit the market. A couple of those little pesky guys just aren't paying their bills no matter what. Hey, I'll let you know I'm not paying that crap. I'm moving out of the country. Eat it. You know, so all of a sudden they're up 700%. I can see where an article like that would come from. And I know a lot of people think like, oh man, this is the year real estate's slowing down, foreclosures are everywhere. It takes like 1,000 days for a foreclosure to actually hit the market. Now, a foreclosure is a short sale, so you owe the bank 300 grand. The market only currently supports 250 grand. You know, you're a little upside down on this. You can't sell that house. That's a foreclosure. That's not happening. Because that house you bought a year ago that was 300 grand is now worth 400. You could sell that at a crackhead price right now, and you're still ahead on your house. Like, even people that bought the peak, the only thing they have to do is just afford their house for the next couple of years, and they're probably going to be all right. Outside of any black swan event no one could see coming, not anybody on Facebook, not even anybody that pretends to know. Like, the only person that's going to coincidentally get a black swan event right is something like Michael Burry. You know, the guy who called The Big Short, the movie The Big Short was about him. And he called a crash every day. Still does. He's called out World War III, nukes flying. Everything, every day, crash. Now, eventually one will happen, and all of a sudden he knew it all along. Like, it's actually not how it works. When you call it out every day and it doesn't happen, you're wrong every day. When you're finally happening, when you're right, you're just more coincidentally right. So, it still doesn't count. The people on Facebook still know what they're talking about. So be careful with this foreclosure situation, because the banks are peeling that back, like they're allowing you to foreclose now. It's hard. You have to have like the perfect setup and the perfect storm even for that. Not to say that's not going to happen, not to brush that off like it's not that couldn't be a thing. You know, it's just the way values have gone up. It made it a lot harder for those foreclosures to just flood on, because there's a supply and demand aspect, just like we talked about with stocks. You know, more buyers, things go up, more sellers, you know, I guess prices go down. And we have so many buyers, it's just going to take forever to chip away at that. So, no, we do not have a bubble in real estate. One of the big factors we're going to use as a segue to get into China is, you know, that used to be everyone's, like, when people flood into something, that creates a bubble, because now they're just buying. We don't care. We're buying. And I can see where some people started to talk about a real estate bubble, because we kind of had that attitude for a little bit. Like, it's going to get nuts. But we're talking investors buying. Everyone's buying. If they can get their hands on it, they're grabbing it. Just like Bitcoin when it made that first run from like 7K or like 3 to 20. Was it 2017? Went nuts. Everyone's buying it. They had no idea what like your friend's grandma's in this. Like, I got some Bitcoin. And you had no idea. She's never invested in a stock, a cryptocurrency, nothing. Here she is, crypto millionaire. The U.S. economy isn't like that. For the longest time, real estate investors, they thought the crash was coming, so they sat on the side. I saw this a lot. They sat on the side for years. No, the crash is here. The crash is here. It's coming. Here it comes. The crash is here. Didn't happen. Next thing you know, they're sitting on the sidelines for 2 years. They've had no work, no income, nothing. The crash never came. So then there was this panic where they had to all buy everything that was on the market. So right now, as real estate mortgage rates are increasing, like investors are still buying up everything. So we're not feeling the effects of rate increases. We're only just now feeling it because some investors are finally pulling back. Like, all right, because if you're in the business of flipping homes, I'd say this is the risk adverse side. Like, this is where you're taking on some risk. If you're buying a home, if you can afford it, you're locking into that 30-year more. Hopefully 30. Dave Ramsey says 15. To each their own. I'd do 30. If you want to pay off 15, there's no penalty. You keep that lowest month payment, but that is your payment. That's it for the next 30 years. Focus on that. If the housing market crashes for the next 2 years and recovers 2 years after that, that didn't affect you. The only time it affects you is when you have to sell. So make sure if life does happen and you get screwed, you budgeted correctly, you bought the house you could afford. That's the biggest advice I can give anybody is like, hey, focus on you, and that's it. Know that some bad crap's probably going to happen, so keep some, for the rainy days. That's that. So we did see investors pull back, but it was never an actual frenzy where everyone is buying multiple properties. Doesn't matter what, just get me your hands on something. We never actually saw it. We saw some demand. We saw new homes just not really, we were not building as much. We could not keep up with demand. So there was a supply and demand difference, but all that did was raise prices. It didn't actually create a bubble. We'll talk about that because there is an actual bubble in China. Like, this is where you can use the actual word. And let me know if any of this sounds a little bit more like a bubble than the United States, a little fake bubble. If we're not in a recession, we can change the definition. I guarantee we're not in a real estate bubble. Or maybe I can't guarantee that. I am a licensed real estate agent, so I don't want to use words like guaranteed and it's for sure. Nothing's for sure. But outside of, like, what's a good rule to put out here? Disclaimer. Let's go with the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, this is how things are going to work. There's going to be that weird one-off scenario that'll pop up and be like, oh, outside of something ridiculous like that happening, we're not in a bubble. And if you're worried about interest rates, before we get to China, what really irks me is, I don't want to pay 5% interest on a mortgage. Yeah, you're renting a house? That's 100%. Like, imagine paying 5% for the next 3 years. Maybe rates go down. You can refi then. Or you're like, well, I'll buy it then. Like, well, all right, let's just do some basic math real quick. How much is that house you want to rent for? Okay, take that times 12, right? Because there's 12 months in my calendar. It's the one the banks go off of, too. Let's say you're there for 3 years. That's times 3, so 36 months. Times how much is your rent? Now, look at how much you paid that mortgage. Yeah, 5% of that pissed away into the wind. Interest sucks. But watch that equity part. Watch how much that builds up, how much money you put back in yourself. So can you even afford to rent? Most of you can't afford to be renting. You need something like this to actually build any kind of wealth. It's not something that's taught, which does annoy me. Back to China. They have what's called ghost cities. You want to talk about actual demand. It's a status symbol over there. Look how many houses I got. The very second they can afford a mortgage, they're out there buying it. I remember I almost got my first repo. I was working at Lowe's. I'm like making like $800 a month, and I'm thinking that's enough to buy a truck. I about bought a diesel truck. I'm barely in my teens, and they even approved me for it. That would have been my first repo ever. I've never had one, but that would for sure sign like no bank should have ever given me the money for a stupid truck like that. They're doing it in China. They're going hard in the paint. 100 times worse than 2008. The second they can afford it, they give me another house. Now, they're buying houses. There's whole cities not a single person lives in because people just want to say they have 2-3 houses. So they're just dust, collecting dust, vacant. Like, let me know when we have that kind of situation, because then I'll gladly have the bubble conversation with you over here in the United States. Also, corporations are about to F themselves right into the dirt. They're taking money like a Ponzi scheme. So I give a new builder, a new builder actually just promotes to me, he's got this house for sale. I think I can afford the mortgage, I want it. They're selling me this house without ever actually having that. They haven't even broke ground yet. We're not even any phase through. We are just flat. It's a field, but there's going to be a house there one day. So I give them the money. I take out the loan. I'm paying my mortgage. No house ever gets started because they take that money. They're using it as a down payment to buy more apartment buildings. Like, it's getting crazy. Now, you can imagine there's a whole lot of money just exchanging, just like a pyramid scheme, using one to pay for the other, never actually getting back to the other, and things are finally starting to not work out. There's actually protests going on in the street right now. Like, so this title here, China banks may face 350 billion in losses from property crisis. This property crisis going on right now could spin out into an actual cluster of disaster. I know China right now, they're working, the CCP is working on like 150 billion bailout. 150 billion, like, can you read that number? That's not 150. That's a little off the top. Maybe that's max. Maybe they can keep this 150. They can salvage the situation. But they don't have the money to build the properties they said they were going to build. And now everyone's protesting, saying we're not paying our mortgage until there is a house. Right now, China's trying to scrub the internet and delete. Like, if you know, I call him Winnie the Pooh because I'm not actually entirely sure. Xi Jinping? I always feel like I'm saying that wrong, but someone said he looked like Winnie the Pooh, so he scrubbed the internet and got Winnie the Pooh off of it. If you guys hate the United States, imagine living over there. So he's doing that right now. People are banks, they're not allowed to post articles about this or the protests or anything. No more, because protests are getting crazy. There's literal tanks on the street. And people just aren't going to pay their mortgage. There was already almost a small run on banks when everyone just runs in to pull their money out. Banks actually can't do that. There's not enough money in the world. There's like 10% of the actual money. So for every $100 you have in your account, you're allowed to pull out like actually $10. That's all the bank can actually give you. So they're trying to stop that. Some banks have already put limits on withdrawals. They're stopping you from withdrawing your money. That could collapse the entire system over there. That is an actual real estate bubble. I don't know how it would affect the U.S. economy. I know when Evergrande was a situation, we had things like BlackRock, they were invested in there. But I don't think that's as far as the investment side, I don't know if that's nothing I've seen that's going to affect the U.S. It sounds absolutely huge, dangerous, and like obviously huge scenario. But I wanted to take this moment, just kind of either get the attention out to this, spread like awareness. You want to see what an actual bubble is? Start looking into that. It's absolutely crazy how things are unfolding over there. So I want to wrap it up here, just kind of give my opinion on our stock market bubble versus a real stock market, or I don't know why I say stock market. Real estate bubble versus a real estate bubble. And I want to get your opinions on that. If you took out a mortgage to buy a house, just a field of grass, at what point would you say, I'm not paying my mortgage until there is something there? Because I agree with those people, because it's not that they can repo the house. Yeah, come take it back. It's right over there where the dandelion is. Yeah, all yours, bud. Give me my money back. Like, I'm with the people on that one. I told them to eat a bag of probably a lot sooner, but I want to get your opinion. Let me know down below, how far would you take this? Anyway, I'll wrap it up here. I'll see you guys tomorrow.